So, as you said, I started this thing with a PhD in biomedical engineering, working on nerve conduction leprosy back in 1989. I completed from IIT Madras. So, my research was mainly focused based on practical applications. I didn't want to really download data and download code from this thing. Whatever we recorded, whatever we worked on. Because one good thing about India is, we have a great population. So that's a great advantage if you look at it that way. We can collect any amount of data, and then the restrictions are much less. And so most of the things that I have done, we have worked with the doctors and other people, and that is how this thing. So during my PhD, I worked with Dr. S.S.K. Iyer, who was a neurologist in Chennai, and also Dr. K.S. Rao, who were the Deputy Director of Central Teaching and Research Institute in Chengalpet. I stayed there in the hospital for nearly 3 weeks and collected data from the patients and so on. So then we also did work with Dr. Suresh. We collected high resolution ultrasound images of the fetus during the final few months of the pregnancy. The problem that was given is to predict the maturity of the fetal lung, because if the child is born premature, then sometimes the lung may not be mature enough. So then you need to take adequate precaution. If it is a ordinary clinic, then they may not be able to support. So we were supposed to get that. So that is where we worked with him. And then I also worked with Dr. Shirley Tellis, who was at that time in Vivekananda Yoga Kendra in Bangalore. Now she is the Director of Research in Patanjali Yoga Research in Rishikesh. So we worked on yogic breathing techniques. Then I left that for a long time, and we again started very recently. And then I also worked with Professor Gangadhar, who retired as Director of NIMANS, and now he is in National Medical Commission. So we worked on heart rate variability as an index of remnant autonomic imbalance. He headed the de-addiction center. People who are given to drought of drinking. So if they are lucky, then somebody will convince them to and bring them to NIMANS to de-addict them. So they used to give them some drugs and certain other treatment, and once they are free from that, so before they release them, they just still want to find out, because if they have been drinking for a long time, then their autonomic nervous system is affected. So is there still some remnant thing even though they have been de-addicted? So that was something that we worked on. And then we worked on differential blood count. We had blood smear images from a clinic in Germany. And then we also worked with Professor Jain A.N. Jayakumar, who was at that time in NIMANS, and that was on 3D image compression. So some of this, most of these problems were actually given by the doctors and other people that we worked. So that way, we have somebody to really work with, talk to, whether they think it is relevant, important, and then so on. I'm in the committee of. Earlier I was in ICMR, and now I'm in this SCRB, Scientific and Engineering Research Board. Many biomedical projects come, and these are, the engineers, they think about it in their mind that it is going to be a great project, but they don't talk to the patients or doctors. So I always tell them that don't fund any project unless they have talked to a doctor, and then they find that it is going to be really useful, and nothing such a thing exists, or it's really is going to, but unfortunately many a times that is not done. So so I want to say something about context is decisive. Okay, what do I mean by context? What I mean by context, when you are talking to somebody, you have something in your mind. Sometimes it is explicit, it, sometimes you are not even distinguished it. But there are always some context. Like if you see the TV debates, the context is to put down the other person. It's not to come out with the what is real or what is true, but to succeed in the fight, right? So that is what I mean by context. So I would define it as why we do what we do, and the context decides what you do and what results you have. So I give two quick examples. This, I thought this is very relevant because very recently, we reached pinnacle of this thing in the Chandrayaan 3, and we are proud of ISRO, whereas we are not equally proud of some of the public sectors. So when ISRO was created, they created with a context. The context was, as I can read that, what I call vision: harness space technology for national development while pursuing space science research and planetary exploration. So you can see very clearly they wanted to develop the technology for national development. And if you see, before they thought of Chandrayaan, they took care of most of the national requirements, like all the communication satellites and other satellites were then in place, because of which we have all the rich technology in India. And once, I think around 2005, they decided that that part is kind of taken care of. Now what should we do next? They thought they will explore space, and that is where we are. And when you compare that with the vision for public sector enterprises, when Nehru created this is what he defined: create infrastructure. See, the very first term is not very inspiring, right? Create infrastructure. Absorb technology. That means you are not creating technology, you are absorbing technology from somewhere. Encourage innovation, generate employment, and achieve certain social objectives. Certain social objectives, very vague, you can see. And it's no surprise that public sector is what we see that if that is the context, to generate employment. When I was a BE student, every year all the public sector, they will recruit 50 people, and they will be called management trainees, whether they have a requirement or not. Every year 50, it's so this is what I mean, and so the vision for an institution is very important. I have fought with our management several times in my 30-year career in IISc that there is no clear vision for IISc. So the vision, what I see, okay, is you get your papers, you get your promotion, you take care of your students, you get your awards. That's it. Okay, everything else is secondary. Students are also secondary. They are a tool for you to get your objectives. Anyway, so because they select really extraordinary faculty and everybody wants to survive, they are having whatever records. But other than that, there is no real vision that you need to reach here. I was very happy to see that the name of your university is Rishihood. I didn't find time to explore. I think after the talk, I'll get more of this. It's a very interesting name, so I just want to find out. So about this context is decisive. When you look at research and he said this talk is about how to motivate the research or something. So that is where I'm talking about the context. So either there is a created context, like we saw for ISRO or the other public sector, or when you don't have a created context, there is already a hidden undistinguished context. Like I told you, whatever IISc I had, that is what I saw, that it's undercurrent. It's not written anywhere, but what I saw in my 30 years is that is the hidden context. So if you look at our distinguished Prime Minister, he's just arts graduate. He's not a PhD or anything. But however, he's created context for his life has made him our PM, and the kind of expectations on him. People expect him to turn around the economy, make India a powerful country, improve the laws, improve technology, improve peace, everything. One man. Anything goes wrong, they say PM has not done it. So one way it is good, because that is his context, and that context makes people to expect that from that person. So many of us here will be doctorates and maybe postdocs, and many of us in good institutions, and read that only 11% of our population has income above 50,000 a month, and I'm sure most faculty here are above that. So we are actually a creamy layer. So I used to think, what is the expectation of the people from us? That we are kind of privileged people. What should be our context? That when you have that in mind, there is no right answer for that. You will have your own answers, and the answer also will evolve with time. As you know more, your maturity level increases with life and all that. So the vision we created in 2001, when I got present to these things, I joined in 92, but I did the certain programs called, some of you might have heard, there is a international educational program called Landmark Education. So now I think the company is called Landmark Education Worldwide. So they educate, their only job is to educate people to be effective and have workability in life. When I say life, every aspect of life, whatever you think is important, they work. And then from there, we created around 15-20 people were there in our lab, including all the project staff. So that is where we created research with real life applications while creating technology leaders for the country. So what I mean by real life applications. So see, I say in research, the topic of the research many times is complex. What I mean by complex is there is something real, in mathematics you have complex numbers, real plus j, some imaginary. So that is what I mean by complex, not complex research problems, that also may be there, but this complex is from mathematics. Some people work on real problems. They have real data, they have a real thing to achieve, they want to develop some technology or change, the health of people or change the psychology of people or whatever, or improve the education system. So some real goals. And some people work with only imaginary data. So you simulate data and you simulate some problems and then you keep working on it. And many of the problems are somewhere in between, some real, some imaginary. So what I call it, a complex problems and with complex data. So I told you all the data that we collected is from people here. We collected the compound of action potentials, the ultrasound images, 3D MRI data, and for all our, he said OCR and TTS. OCR means optical character recognition. That is a machine recognizing printed text in, on paper or any media. So, and we worked on many other Indian languages, or handwriting recognition, or speech synthesis. One of my last PhD student finished in.
So where would you place Bayes' idea, Bayes' law? When he came up with that idea, there was no application of that. But now whole AI is based on information of everything. So point is sometimes useless knowledge, we may not know the application of that in the real life today, but maybe in future we will find the application of that.
I fully agree. Okay, but how many of us are, have that mathematical or scientific knowledge at that level? Most researchers, they do some what I call delta X research. There is X, you take that and you do delta X. There are exceptions. They should really work on this. So you should know yourself. I am not that. I am not at the level of Leibniz or Fourier or Einstein or anybody. So I know my limitations, but I am above average. So you decide what is best. Yes, if you are exceptionally good and you are coming up with new theoretical basis in whatever field, that's amazing. Then
you may not know that the full potential of your idea. Over time, it reveals itself.
Sir, I differ. Really? Your heart knows. Your heart knows what you are working on. It cannot be proved. If you ask me, how do you prove that, whether that is really useful, whether it is worthwhile and all that, your heart of heart, what you are doing is real research, or you are just doing it for, like I said, a different context. It's not you. When I say you, it's not you. Yeah, anybody.
Yeah. Why I'm putting that question is because...
And I feel that, looking at your heart, we need to teach in the school. Unfortunately, it has gone now.
We are bringing it back here.
Yeah. So we need to, transform school education so that people can really see it. It's possible.
But my only point is, sorry for
Yeah, please. Yeah.
It's very important. This whole concept of useless ideas, I think, is very powerful. That because our understanding of the world is so limited, that we may not know the ideas that we are coming up with, what kind of application we will have in the future. So we should be open to that. Some people might.
Sir, I don't deny that, but I don't want to get into an argument right now. So the point is, I just heard one of our colleagues, nobody has applied wavelets to speech, so let's work on it. See that kind of thing.
True. Yeah,
So the only context is you can easily get one more paper. So there is no specific thing that you are really working on.
True.
So that's all I am saying. Yeah, it's very difficult to clearly define, and ultimately it is your decision. Okay. So one of the things we created at that time is that we will create Indian language reading machines for people with visual disability, what I called as automatic book reader. So we started working on OCR, which means you have printed text, and it starts with that. So you scan it and get it as an image, and then you have a software which will recognize, segment the lines and characters and recognize that and create text. So once we,
in Braille?
Braille also be converted, many Braille, hundreds of Braille books also be created, but later we also had text to speech conversion. So once you recognize that and it becomes a what we call e-text, which is text coded in the computer, then you can actually convert it into speech in that language. So my student has a startup now, he has text to speech in around 10 Indian languages. Okay, of course you would have heard it in other companies like Google and so on. So at that time it was not there commercially. So that is what, initially we started with that, it will just come and this thing, but we found that it's very expensive. This at that time, I have not checked recently, at that time the Braille books, the paper has to be imported. We are not manufacturing the Braille paper also. Everything, each paper has to be imported, so it's a those books are expensive, more expensive than our books. It's very unfortunate. And so then we realized that it may be better to have it as speech, so we went on to text to speech. Originally I said I will not work on English because everybody is working on English, even in India. So let's work only on Indian languages. But later I realized that that's not a very practical thing, because when we saw most of the printed stuff, even science books, I study in Tamil medium, there will be the technical words will be given in brackets in English. So we realized that we need to also look at English. And then we also realized that suppose you are, of course nowadays nobody goes to the bank, everything is online, but those days there are forms that you have to fill up to get an application in our account in the bank, and that form is usually trilingual, Hindi, English and the local language. So then we realized that we need to recognize first the script. We cannot assume that it will be one script. So I have to recognize what scripts are there and then do that, and that has to be done at the word level. So that itself became a new research topic, and that papers are well cited now. So what I realized is, see, one of my colleagues, he said, whatever you are doing is not even research, because these have been done in English. So you are only repeating it in Indian language. I said that's okay, because nobody has done it, so let me do it. So what I found is, even though I started such a thing which is kind of repeating what is there in English for Indian language, then we found like this, as a new problems research that we came across. Then by that time, mobiles became famous, and everybody had a mobile and a camera in that mobile. So we started recognizing camera based documents, because if you are if you are taking some photograph and if you can recognize some text, you can even help people to navigate, if people who do not have eyes and so on. So like this, we, from that one topic we moved on to several other related topics. So we scanned books published over some 50-60 years I went to very old libraries and convinced them that I need these books. We scanned them, and some of them we removed the binding and then put it back and returned, so that it can recognize really different types of fonts and different types of printing styles and so on. And so that led us to, so on the left is my student Shivakumar, who helped most of this. He was equally passionate about this, and because of him, we could give solutions to people which are as good as a standard software. He had 15 years of experience in IBM software labs when he joined me as a PhD student, and this was an award which was given to him in Rashtrapati Bhavan. And this is about when our text to speech in Kannada was covered in this thing. So I told you about this camera captured images. They have their own challenges. The text may not be horizontal or straight, and it may be in multiple colors, and the contrast may be bad, and so we worked on this. So this shows how various types of this thing, and each column is the original input, and the second column is only the text extracted, and after that we have to recognize that and so on. And so when the text is curved, even in English the OCRs did not recognize that, so we came up with an algorithm. This got patented, and we also participated in international competitions. We got this thing. Then we were lucky to be funded by Ministry of Information Technology for many of our products and projects. So our handwriting recognition engines are available there on their website for download. And I think I will skip this part. I will only give you a very brief this thing. See, one of my friends has a company in Chennai, and they do different types of printing toss, and somebody gave them a problem, and without thinking he took this thing. So over 50 years of newspapers have to be digitized and put on the server so that people can access. Now you are familiar with digital libraries and so on. So when he contacted me, he had already scanned the 50, you can imagine 50 years of newspapers, how much is this? 365 days into maybe 10 pages at least, into 50 years. He had scanned everything, and then he asked for my OCR, Tamil OCR. I sent it. He said, your OCR is useless. It gives only 30%, he said. I said, it cannot be like that. We have got awards. Please send me your page. So what he did is he put it on the scanner and put automatic mode. See, it recognizes that it's only text, and it binarizes the text and recognizes. When that machine binarizes, so it's not the most optimal binaries. It may be okay for human reading and so on. So lot of things was lost, and they are all very old newspapers. So I said, this is not okay. Binary means each dot is kept as either black or white. Okay. So, but for this thing, we have an internal binarization. So we take it as a photograph. Photograph has many levels of gray. So I said you should have at least 256 levels of gray. Scan it as an image and send it to us. He said, no, I have already scanned all the pages, and that papers are too much, so we have disposed of it. I said, then you forget it. That's it. Nothing can be done. You forget it cannot be recognized. You ask somebody to look at it and type. He said, no, AGR, we cannot do this. Do something. So I put one of my research student on that. So you can see that this is the original. The top thing is the original scanned text that we got, and the second thing, B, is that recognized by at that time, because when I say that it's recognized my OCR, see, we are there is a lot of problems. We have to publish in international journals, otherwise it's not recognized. We don't recognize our own journals, right? Even the people who are the editors of our Indian journals, they will not publish in that, right? So then I ran the Google's Tamil OCR, and you can see that many of them are recognized as English, some even Chinese characters were there. And then the C is the output of my students' work using some deep learning algorithm. Anybody knows Tamil, you can see that it's much better readable than the top one. You know Tamil? Yeah. Okay. So again, it's not perfect, but it's much better, at least for person who can read, it can read clearly. The first one cannot be even read, some of them cannot be read, and the recognition again, you know, from maybe 20% accuracy, we have gone up to some 50% accuracy. And at least what I can say is there is no English or Chinese, all of it is recognized as Tamil. Of course, we improved much better, and so like that, you know, we did different things. And you know, I did biomedical engineering. I told you I always have interest in studying. Almost every average day, I must be reading at least 1 or 2 articles on, you know, latest these things in medicine. And after neuroscience departments came, I also attend neuroscience lectures and so on. So I thought, you know, the best recognition engine in the world is our brain for visual and all that. So why don't we learn something from that? So we looked at this thing. See, most of the pattern recognition machines today, you know, you would have heard all these terms of machine learning, deep learning and all that. So they give lot of training inputs. Suppose you want to recognize all the objects, then suppose 1,000 objects. So you give some 100 examples, images with different poses, different color, different shades of all those 1,000 images, and then give the label also. So then the machine learns some correspondence. Then you give an input, it recognizes. Suppose now I give the 1,001th image, which was not trained, it's blank. Till today, that is the problem, that it will only recognize whatever you give after that, it will recognize as one of those 1,000 things, whichever is the nearest in a probabilistic sense or a distance metric. So what is happening is, in most of these machines, they don't learn with time, whereas your brain all the time keeps learning. Every time you get a new example and there is slightly different, it learns. What we don't know exactly how it learns, but it's learning. Of course, people are working on that to give that kind of these things to machine, but most of the pattern recognition system, machine learning, deep learning, all that is, you give all of this, it keeps, the network keeps on learning. You know, the parameters are changing, but once you say it has learned, then it's all frozen. We call it feed forward network. You just feed something, it keeps going, and then something comes out. If you are lucky, it's very good. If you are not lucky, it's not good, and you don't know what to do. So then you look for somebody else's network and you retrain. So I found that in the so inside, you know, you have this membrane, but just they are simulating it. You know, when you put it out like this. Okay, good, we are able to get this. So you can see that at different frequencies, different parts of this membrane are vibrating. Of course, this is simulation, but but it shows the basilar membrane. You know, different areas of it is vibrating at different frequencies. So if you get a single tone, only one area will vibrate. But if you have a complex music, you can see that most of it is vibrating. And it's not that one point is effective for only one frequency, but it's a band of frequencies. So based on that, you know, we define what is called a constant Q filter bank, and we change some of the features in our speech recognition, and that gave a slightly improvement over the other features. And similarly, you know, because now more and more the pattern recognition, this deep learning people say that, you know, you don't have to get any features, it will learn by itself. You give enough data, it will learn by itself. But if that is really true, why is, you know, I asked this question. See, we have evolved over millennia, whereas the computer networks have evolved only 100 years maximum now. So then the nature, or whatever you call it, that which are created, then that should also decide that you don't need to extract any features, you know, it will learn by itself. because we have much more capability than the machine. But it's not really true that you saw that within the ear, and it's not only for human beings, even for many vertebrates it is there. It's able to extract certain features which are related to frequency. Similarly, in our visual area called V1, these people got a Nobel Prize somewhere, I think in 60s or so. They found out that by giving different stimuli to the visual stimuli to the cats, they found that there are different neurons in the visual area which are responding to different orientations. So in other words, the brain has specific structures to extract specific features. So we use that to modify certain things to get facial emotion recognition. So I will not get into the details. And one more thing that So I was telling you about not only that features is there, but I told you about this learning. So these machines which are trained by this deep learning, they learn a lot with the data that is given, but once it is trained and they give you that, okay, now you can use it for recognition, it stops learning. Whereas our systems, whether both auditory as well as visual, there is a feedback when you are actually recognizing itself. From the top there is some feedback which can change the way you are extracting the features itself. So here you can see this is that membrane has two different type of cells called inner hair cells and outer hair cells. So from outer hair cells, from the brain up, it makes some kind of gestalt recognition, and then it says maybe you look for this kind of thing. So it sends some feedback through the outer hair cells, and that can modify the characteristics of inner hair cells, and something changes there that people have not found, but they have found that the feedback is high there. And similarly here in the visual pathway, there is this lateral geniculate nucleus which is the first junction after your retina, and you can see that there are different colors here. So some information is coming from your retina to this, but lot of information is coming back from this green things from the different layers of your visual cortex. And they found that the amount of feedback connections are 5 times the feed forward connections. So the feedback which is happening all the time when you are actually recognizing is so rich that it is much more than the feed forward connection. So which tells you that you need to actually incorporate this in your systems for it to be much more effective. So we use some of these aspects. I don't know exactly what feedback is it, but we use this concept of this that from the recognition output you can give feedback and modify some things in your recognition system. We use that, and that I feel is one of the things I told you. When you recognize the patterns which are not trained, you can never recognize, and that was the main problem I found in OCR. When you take a old book, see, suppose I recognize all the characters in Hindi, for example, ka ka ga ga cha 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 na, everything I have recognized. But when you take a old this thing, so something will be cut, then that pattern will never be there. One character has become 2 now, or some extra ink has flown and 2 characters have merged. So in our segmentation, so that pattern will be there. This pattern is nowhere there, and it will be recognized as one of the standard patterns only. So I found that it is not by increasing the amount of neurons or having the latest computers we cannot improve, because it doesn't know the pattern. So I need to really attack that. So here we got some interesting ideas. For example, unlike in English, one symbol is one character. So you have a one code in whether it is ASCII code or Unicode. Whereas suppose let's say Devanagari, if you take, you write ko, you write ka, and then there is a vertical symbol. If you remove the Shiroreka, then there are 2 things, and even that matra can come as a separate thing, and each of them has a separate Unicode. So the ko will actually come as 2 Unicodes or 3 Unicodes. And similar thing, there are actually totally distinct symbols. The ko, if I write in Tamil, it has 3 separate symbols, not touching at all, nothing like this thing. So now if I recognize each of that separately, if one of them is not recognized properly, then I will not be able to get a valid Unicode. So I can recognize that something is wrong in the recognition. Or some characters are merged, and suppose this ko I recognize as, let's say, Ra, just for example, in Devanagari. See, the Ra has very little width compared to ko. So we have calculated the width, what is the mean width and the variation for all the characters in the language that we dealt with. So after we recognize, I go back to the original symbol and see whether it is within that range. If it is not, I know that something is wrong. So like this, we set up many things to recognize possible errors, even though we don't know exact error, but we know the possible errors, and we fed back that information. So you can see here, from the output recognizer, we are getting all those loops. We get feedback to even up to the binarization. I told you originally we started with that binarization problem, converting an image into black and white. So we even can change that binarization effort. You can see that, this is one of the gray level, this is a Kannada, this thing, its word is called Hosa, means new. So this is the original thing, and when I binarize and recognize, you can see that this has become this, the bottom one. And once I recognize there is something wrong, I go and improve the contrast of that. So before I improve the contrast, there is some this thing, because of the screen you cannot see that. So when I binarize that, you can see that this is much better than this. And then now I am able to recognize it properly, and this is, the recognition has come out okay. So here the character is cut into multiple pieces. So similarly we also worked on where the multiple characters have merged, and this is some tables we need not get into. We compared it with the Lipignani is our Kannada OCR, and Tesseract is the Google's OCR, and we compared that it is better. And we in many Indian languages we study Sanskrit slokas in the local language. Many people, they want to study slokas, but they may not know Sanskrit. In north it may not be a problem, in south it's a problem, because each region has a different script, Kannada or Malayalam or Telugu, but so they read the Sanskrit slokas in their local language, in the local script it is written. Okay, so and some language don't have a script, like in Karnataka, the coastal regions have this Tulu and Konkani. They don't have a script of their own. So Konkani, depending on which region it is either written in Devanagari or Kannada or Malayalam script. So we took the Konkani, and then books written in Kannada, then we took Sanskrit books written in Kannada, then we took Tamil books written in Kannada. See, this Vaishnavites, the Ramanujacharya was a Tamilian, but Vaishnavites are there throughout, and their original book is called Nalayira Divya Prabandha, which is the Tamil book. So they read it, now they don't know Tamil, so they read it in this Kannada script. So we took all of that, and we recognized using our Kannada OCR, and it because we don't have a standard dictionary and we are recognizing this thing, in those languages we did far better than the Google OCR. And then currently we are working on we have collected, thanks to two people here, Sushil Chandra and Kanishk, we got a EEG system loaned from this Brahma Kumari organizations. It's very expensive and nice 64 channel EEG system. We have collected around data from around 200 meditators, and also we have also collected along with that some data from, my interest is breathing, because a lot of people are working on either yogasanas or meditation, but in this thing, if you see Ashtanga yoga, between these two comes pranayama, and pranayama is very powerful in the sense, see, I know whether somebody is breathing correctly or not by measuring. You're asked how to measure certain things. In meditation, when somebody closes his eyes, I don't know whether he's meditating or not, right? Is he thinking of his girlfriend or boyfriend, or he's really doing meditation? God alone knows. So this is trackable, okay. And the other thing is, that's another talk. There are many things I'll tell you later if you are interested. So this is, we just recorded the EEG when the person is breathing very slowly. So we can look at the inhalation EEG separately, exhalation EEG separately, inhale and hold, kumbhaka they call, right, and exhale and hold. And now, you know, one of my postdocs has derived these patterns. So these are called functional connectivity, how two different electrodes, you know, they are talking to each other and so on. You can see the patterns are completely different, and she is able to just, you give the EEG, she can tell you whether that particular time whether person is inhaling or inhale and hold, exhaling, exhale, hold, up to 95%. So this paper is under review. Of course, this directly I don't know whether it's useful, but you know, we are looking at this. I am more interested in what is happening when they are meditating or when they are doing a pranayama. What is happening to the brain? Why you are getting certain benefits that we get? A lot of papers are there in all the benefits. They say, okay, you do this for 3 months, you will get this. That is, enough papers are there. But why we get that? Not many papers. So that is our interest. And I know I didn't have time to get the pictures. So this is one paper which where Kanishk and is a main author. You know, recently we got it in a journal called Mindfulness. So see, in the brain there are two separate networks. See, when you are just idling, you know, you're just closing your eyes and you're thinking of what happened yesterday. You know, not very specific things. You know, the in Tamil we call it manam oru kurangu, that is your manas is like a monkey, it keeps jumping. So when the brain is like that, then certain areas of the brain is working, okay, that's called default mode network, that's called the default. You know, you are not specifically doing something, and then we are doing some focused work, certain other areas of the brain are working, so that's called another network. So one is called task negative network, another is called a task positive network. You have a specified task. Usually these are mutually exclusive, either task negative network will be operating or task positive network will be operating. But what we found in this BK meditators, whoever we recorded are minimum 10 years, so long term meditators, both of the networks are active at the same time. So and in the somewhere in the literature people say that this can happen only if you are in the Advaita state. That means, you know, Advaita is, you know, two or not there, there is only one. So when you are in that state, both can be active. Of course, I can't prove that, but we have put it and the paper is published. So it's for everybody to question now. Something interesting we got, I just wanted to share. Okay, so it's 5, should I stop or another few more slides are there? It's up to you. Huh? You want to go through, but others, I need to take permission.
Because he's a health economist, so
he's a
nutrition there. It's
he's a decision maker here.
but he's a nutrition guy. So
Okay. See, this nutrition is something different from whatever you know as nutrition. I know very little, nothing about the nutrition in terms of calories and all. Okay, and I personally believe we don't need to look at calories also. That's a different thing. Anyway, let's not pick up any argument. So this is more from my interest in breathing. Okay. See, when you look at health, there is too much talk about food, right? Every doctor says, every magazine keeps on saying, you eat this, you don't eat this, you know, you count the calories and all that. And we are fed up with, at least I am fed up with it. But they don't talk about breathing. See, you eat only 3 or 4 times, unless you are in America, okay, where you
you keep on eating only.
right? Whereas you are breathing 24/7. Even when you are sleeping, you are breathing. When somebody is in coma, they are still breathing. So that is very important. And how many breaths? Every breath gives you oxygen, and your brain is only 2% of the weight of your body, but it takes 20% of the oxygen. And all of us are brain workers. So unfortunately, no doctor talks about this. So the most important input for you, see, and we have, Gandhi has told, MK Gandhi has proved that, you know, you can live for a few days without food, but you can't live beyond 4 minutes without oxygen. Your brain is gone, right? So that's why I feel it's very, very important. And even if when you are breathing 24/7 into 365 days, even if you improve 2%, it's going to make a huge difference. And I have a whole paper on this. Later, if you are interested, and my YouTube video is also there, you can see. So 65% of our body mass is oxygen, because it's not just oxygen and oxygen, because carbohydrate has oxygen, everything has fat has oxygen and all that. And every cell needs oxygen for its metabolism. Anybody knows how many cells we have in the body?
Trillions.
Trillion, okay.
10 trillion.
10 trillion, okay.
1 trillion.
Anybody else?
4 billion.
4 billion.
4 trillion.
Okay, see, for your information, brain alone has more than 4 billion cells.
Yeah.
Nobody has counted, but people say from the estimate is from 20 to 100 billion, okay, brain alone. So the latest estimate is some 37.2 trillion. That's again an estimate based on certain this thing, okay. So each of these cell has to get oxygen through our circulation system. You can imagine how much of work our circulation system has to do, and how important is oxygen for the whole thing. And another thing is, normally when you breathe, our normal breathing, we are not even aware whether we are breathing or not, right? It just goes on. Roughly for an adult, you get around 500 ml of air inside your lung. But when you do the maximum possible this thing and you breathe, you can go up to 4.8 liters. When I first read this, I can't believe it. How is it so much possible? That doesn't seem to be so much space also. But I read that, you can find out in all the textbooks it is there. So we can go up to 4.8 liters. Huh? So that means you can increase almost 8 times. So that is what is possible by slow and deep breathing. And that is going to affect your brain and everything else. And whenever you attend any of these talks, if it is really interesting and you totally attend, your breathing actually slows down. So you need to be aware, and that's why if you see that movie, what is that, Karate Kid? How many of you seen the Karate Kid?
Yeah.
So see there, that fellow says, do this, do this, do this, don't forget to breathe, he says. Because when you are attentive, your breath slows down. So that's why he says, be also attentive to your breath. So so many times as knowledge workers, our breathing slows down if you are attentive. So you need to get back this, right? So another thing I found is active deep conscious breathing involves 88 muscles as compared to only 23 muscles in the normal passive breathing. So if you just sit in one place and do active breathing, you are doing exercise as much as you do this dancing with the music and all that, right? So it's a great. And other thing is, when you inhale, the heart rate goes up. When you exhale, the heart rate comes down. It happens to all the people, all the vertebrates. And in our lab, we found out that for normal people who are not used to pranayama and all that, just first time they are doing in our lab, it can range from up to 20 beats per minute we can change. So if your normal breathing rate is 70, you can go from 60 to 80 just by slow and deep breathing. So that means you are constantly giving exercise to your heart. You are increasing, decreasing, increasing, decreasing. It's like running and then slowly walking or resting, kind of. So it's a great cardiac exercise. And why I got interested in this is, I was taking BP medicine for 9.5 years. And now it is 4.5 years since I completely stopped, and I am perfectly fine. And I owe it to breathing exercises primarily. I also do a few other things about food and all. And all of us have ample free time. See, anybody who comes by car and somebody else is driving, or even if you are driving, you can always do a little more deeper breathing. Whatever you are breathing, you just give attention and do it a little deeper. It will definitely help. And most importantly, last line, please read that. Knowledge is not equal to action. All of us know about so many things about health. You have to eat balanced food and all that. How many of us do it? No. So please get into action today. Okay, whatever you learned, and if you really think that breathing is really important, I am 200-300% convinced. Okay, whatever I do or not do, many days I don't do any exercise or walking, I always do breathing. Okay, and one of my relatives was 87 years old lady. She was not even able to walk inside the house. I asked her, just do deep breathing. She says, no, I can't. I said, anyway you are breathing. Just attend and do it a little deeper. No, only I can do 3. said, okay, 3 you do. And after a month when she went for checkup, doctor said, what are you doing? No, your heart rate is very stable, BP is stable. So she is so happy, and now her granddaughter got married 3 years back, and she has never visited her because she has to go upstairs. They don't have a lift in that house. She said, I want to see her, and she went there.
Great.
So really, it's not just a theory, but I have many this thing. So
Action example.
examples I have seen. So let us start this with Rishihood. I believe we have this our people having a great country. What is that? PM had some fit. What is it? Some slogan he had now. What India fit India something, right? So for Fit India, I feel you don't need to do a lot of exercise and count. Today I did only 5,000 steps, and today I didn't rest, and increase your stress level. Just do that. Just do a little deeper breathing, and learn a little things about when to eat. I feel when to eat is more important than what to eat. Okay, I don't eat normally beyond 7:38, and that does so much. And that bite what you eat. Those 2 things will make a huge difference. Okay, then this is my passion, so I have to share this. You must give me 2 more minutes, even though your topic nutrition is over. Sorry. So this is what I call a massive transformative purpose. I already told you something about schools. What I am looking on, I don't know how to cause it, but I am taking on this because I have retired recently. So this is one of the major interests that I have is every school must be extraordinary, and admission should be automatic for all children within a certain radius. You don't need extra money or some special person to know. And school must be a favored place for children. They must want to go there. And the school should teach life skills, communication, egocentric living, etc., in addition to making a living. And individual interests and talents are encouraged and developed. And teaching methods are engaging and exciting. And school teachers are paid well and continuously trained so that they have no other concern in life except teaching children. So that's it. Thank you.
Machine and humans together in terms of, because as you said, there will be some characters, the human brain could do much better. But have we involved human intervention in training the machine?
See, till today, in every language, you don't have a machine solution which works 100%.
Yeah.
If you have the latest book, printed book, it will work.
Yeah.
But for latest book, you don't need OCR because it's
It is
already
printed
created in
from-
a e-form only.
Yeah.
So, when we started working on this, we worked with an organization in Chennai who were converting English books for the blind people, and they are funded by some US this thing. So they have categorized books into 7 categories. 1 means you don't have to do anything. Machine will do 100%. The quality of the book is so good, it will do everything. 7 is like comics and all that. Somebody will talk and they will put a box like this, and so the character is it's a slightly bold and different and all that. So somehow that they even type. So this thing, if you really want 100% thing for that, then you have to have a man in the loop finally. But we have some tools which increase the productivity of the people at that level. So that we can still do.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
So this aloo quickly, sir,
Thank you so much.
and sapling to mom.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.